Hi and good morning. I am Alif Maulidin. Today we'll be presenting our site inventory for Enviro Studio located in Mersing, Johor. This is our Unit 1 members from Speculative, consisting of students involved in the site analysis and study. And this is Unit 2 members from Recursive, who are also part of the overall site study and analysis. For this section, we'll be briefly introduce the background of Mersing, covering its overall context, historical development, and urban characteristic to better understand the site. Mersing is a coastal town in Johor and acts as a main gateway to nearby islands like Pulau Tioman. The town is closely connected to the Mersing River, where daily activities such as ferry transport, fishing, and small businesses take place. Our site is located along the waterfront, making it an important connection between the town and the sea. Most activities are focused near the jetty, especially during ferry hours, creating a strong movement pattern in this area. Merseng developed as a river-based settlement and grew through trade, fishing, and later tourism. Over time, the harbour became the main center for movement and economic activity in the town. The origin of Mersing comes from a mix of natural elements, early settlements, and local stories. These cultural and environmental factors help shape the identity of the town today. Mersing started as a small river-based settlement focused on fishing. It then grew along the river as a port and trade town, before expanding inland with the road development. Today, it functions as a tourism gateway, but the urban form has become more dispersed and fragmented. Demographically, it is a low-density district with a population of only 81,000 that span a large land area. The population is mainly working age, predominantly Bumiputra, and largely Malaysian citizen, with high home ownership indicating relative social stability. However, despite the rich natural assets such as forest and coastal environment, Mersing also faces several issues, and one of them is economic challenge, which are lower income levels and limited economic diversification. The community in Mersing is mainly local and closely connected through shared culture and daily activities. The economy is based on fishing, small businesses, and tourism with a slow-paced lifestyle.
Next, we move to regulation and future developments, where we discuss further on the land use and zoning, guideline development, and also future planning.
Land use and zoning, Site A. Site A has a land size of 2 acres, zoned as open space, recreation, and commercial, with a plot ratio of 1:4. Its coastal setting offers strong sea views, natural ventilation, and public visibility. Therefore, the synthesis identifies the site as a waterfront activation zone suitable for new typologies that enhance public use and commercial vibrancy while integrating climate responsive and coastal environmental strategies. For Site B has a land size of 2.06 acres, zoned for commercial use, with a plot ratio of 1:3. Located beside the harbour, the site benefits from strategic access, marine activities, and strong commercial exposure. Therefore, the synthesis identifies the site as a productive waterfront node suitable for new typologies that strengthen economic activity while addressing flood resilience, ecological buffers, and environmental performance. And for Site C has a land size of 2.206 acres, zoned as commercial, with current residential use and a plot ratio of 1:4. The site benefits from panoramic coastal views, road frontage, and proximity to surrounding community facilities. Therefore, the synthesis identifies the site as a destination gateway suitable for new typologies that enhance connectivity, place identity, and user experience while responding to sun exposure, comfort, and landscape condition.
Next, we'll dive into the core components of the RTD Mersing 2030. The Rancangan Tempatan Daerah RTD Mersing 2030 outlines a strategic plan to transform the district by addressing its core challenges through 6 key components: tourism, agriculture and fishery, towns and settlements, nature and geodisasters, connectivity, and socioeconomy. Currently, the region faces issues such as an over-reliance on transit-based tourism, weak internal and regional accessibility, frequent flooding, and urban sprawl. To counter this, the plan leverages Mersing's strategic coastal location and extensive land banks to propose major highway projects like the LPT 4 and international standard tourism products. By commercializing the agriculture and fishing sectors for agro-tourism and improving infrastructure, the LTD aims to transition Mersing from a stopover point into a high-quality international service and tourism hub. Next, the 5 big moves represent a comprehensive strategy to transform Mersing into a premier international destination and a resilient, self-sufficient district by 2030. The first 2 moves focus on establishing Mersing as an international tourist destination city, targeting 2 million visits annually, while ensuring sustainability through high standard services and premium amenities. Big Move 3 aligns with state goals to bolster Johor's food security by modernizing the district's agriculture and fishing sectors. Big Moves 4 aims to create a resilient district by implementing environmental protections against climate-related disasters. Finally, Big Move 5 focuses on becoming a prosperous and sustainable district. Now, this slide compares Mersing's land use from 2019 to the proposed 2030 plan, highlighting a strategic expansion of commercial and residential zones to accommodate future growth. To understand further, the future development plan of Mersing can be compartmentalized by development blocks or block perancangan kecil, BPK. The city center of Mersing is BPK 1.1, which are then divided into smaller blocks. Our chosen sites A, B, and C coincides with BPK 1.1E, Pusat Bandar Baru or the new city center, and BPK 1.1F, Pinggiran Sungai or riverfront development. This slide details the development framework for BPK 1.1D, Pusat Bandar Baru. This zone is primarily designated for Class B, commercial use. To maintain urban density and aesthetic standards, developments are regulated by a 1:4 plot ratio and a maximum building height of 7 stories, which is 25 meters. Though shop offices are limited to only 4 stories. Additionally, the plinth area for freestanding buildings is capped at 60% to ensure adequate open space. The permitted activities in the zone are diverse, ranging from retail and professional services to tourism-centric facilities like hotels and marinas. While commercial growth is the priority, especially freestanding business developments, industrial workshops are strictly prohibited. The plan also allows for integrated residential units at a maximum density of 39 units per acre and institutional facilities provided they adhere to green neighborhood concepts and receive approval from Mersing District Council, MDM. Ultimately, this framework ensures that the new city center is a well-regulated, multifunctional hub, supported by modern infrastructure and utilities. This slide visualizes the proposed new city center and waterfront development, located in BPK 1.1D. The master plan features several key anchors, most notably the Mersing International Convention Center, MICC, and an expansive Mersing waterfront development, including the Legaran Malau and dedicated public squares like Dataran Seri Mersing. To support its role as regional hub, the proposal incorporates high-end amenities such as the international standard accommodations and a detached commercial complex. The development also prioritizes lifestyle and modern workspace needs through the inclusion of an entertainment park and active center, alongside modern concept shop offices. And integrated components work together to transform the waterfront into a dynamic, multifunctional urban destination. This slide details the land use regulations for BPK 1.1F. Pinggiran Sungai. This zone is primarily designated for Class B commercial use, with a 1:3 plot ratio and a building height limit of 5 stories, 18 meters. However, specialized developments such as food or handicraft stalls within the river reserve are restricted to a 1:1 plot ratio and a height of 1 story, 3 meters, to minimize visual impact. To maintain environmental quality and openness, the plinth area for freestanding buildings is capped at 60%, and any construction within the river reserve requires a temporary occupation license, LPS, and approval from Department of Irrigation and Drainage, GPS. In addition to commercial activities, the framework encourages Class E institutional developments, specifically cultural exhibitions like museums and galleries. The plan further integrates Class G, open space and recreation, allowing for public facilities and professional services within those areas, provided they do not involve land subdivision or sale. Supported by a comprehensive network of infrastructure and utilities, this regulatory framework aims to transform the riverbank into a sustainable, multifunctional corridor that serves both the local community and the tourism sector. This slide outlines the proposed riverfront development, BPK 1.1F. The project aims to enhance the area's image and support local tourism by creating a continuous connection between key attractions along the river. Central to this plan is the construction of a pedestrian bridge, Jantas Pejalan Kaki crossing the river to link Kampung Mersing Kanan directly to the Mersing town centre. Additionally, the development includes the dedicated pedestrian and bicycle paths, the children's playground, and essential public facilities like restrooms and disabled-friendly OKU amenities. This slide outlines the proposed riverfront, riverbank, and waste management strategies located in BPK 1.1F. The primary objective is to address riverbank erosion and preserve a constant water width of 84 meters, as mandated by the Johor River Gazette. To achieve this, the plan proposes the construction of approximately 2,473 meters of embankments, utilizing gabion walls and stone retaining walls to stabilize the banks and mitigate flood risks. In addition to structural stabilization, the strategy includes a waste management component focused on reducing pollution in Sungai Mersing. The proposal identifies 8 locations for the installation of trash screens, which are designed to trap solid waste before it enters the river system. Finally, RTD Mersing 2030 reveals Mersing as a district at a crossroads, where its primary strength, the strategic coastal assets and extensive land banks, are currently undermined by its role as a mere transit stopover and its vulnerability to seasonal flooding. This environmental instability creates a cycle of economic fragility and under-occupation that threatens the viability of the proposed tourism-focused city centre. However, the plan's 5 big moves provide a strategic synthesis to reverse these weaknesses by transforming protective infrastructure into public amenities and utilizing modern architectural typologies to foster resilience. By integrating flood-adaptive designs, such as elevated commercial hubs, amphibious cultural pavilions, and living embankments, Mersing can stabilize its economy and transition from a stopover into a high-quality international destination that remains vibrant and occupied year-round despite its climatic challenges.
Moving into section 3, we dive into the site selection and information. In this segment, we move beyond the macro district analysis to evaluate 3 specific sites in Mersing, looking at how their unique sensory, environmental, and behavior layers can support our design intervention. We've selected 3 nodes that define Mersing's identity. Site A as our coastal gateway, Site B as a river transport hub, and Site C as our community node. These locations serve as the front line where our architecture must directly negotiate with the raw environmental forces of the tide and the terrain. Site A is a 2-acre plot zoned for recreational and commercial use. Crucially, the section reveals its exposure to the South China Sea. We are documenting the tidal fluctuations here, normal, high, and low. Site A is defined by loose coastal sand and a soft natural edge. Our sections map the intertidal zone where high tides eat into the usable land. Because of the sand's low bearing capacity and salt mist corrosion, we are proposing deep foundations and lightweight, salt-resistant structures. Site B at 2.06 acres is our most urban site. Unlike the open sea of Site A, this section deals with the Mersing River tidal behavior. The water levels here are influenced by both the tide and river discharge, creating a high energy edge near the jetty. And Site B is engineered hard edge reinforced with sheet piles. The soil here is silty river mud which is prone to shifting. This section shows water coming flush with the pier at high tide. Our design must negotiate this rigid boundary while managing river siltation and water current scoring. Finally, Site C is our largest plot at 2.26 acres. This section highlights a shift in context, moving away from the water's edge and toward the educational fabric of SK Bandar Mersing. The soil here is more compacted and stable, acting as a terrestrial buffer. Our section highlights the transition from the saline beachfront environment to the protected school zone. The technical focus here isn't just the tide, but the groundwater levels and drainage. This site offers the most structural stability, allowing for heavier institutional massing compared to the lightweight requirements of the beach.
This section will be covering the neighborhood context of all proposed sites. Mersing's urban morphology is predominantly void-dominated, shaped by the sea and river with built forms concentrated along the shoreline. While this high porosity supports natural ventilation, the lack of shading and spatial structuring leads to heat gain and weak microclimatic performance. The zoning shows clear segregation between coastal maritime functions and inland commercial and community uses. This creates heat accumulation inland and a hard coastal edge with limited ecological buffering, resulting in weak environmental integration and fragmented spatial performance. Site A is supported by key amenities, landmarks, public parks, residential areas, and active commercial spaces like Friday Market. It reflects a waterfront character with low-rise, mixed-use buildings but lacks strong identity and visual continuity. Driven by daily market activities supporting local economy, food culture, and acting as an important social gathering space. Site B operates as the primary waterfront node, integrating commercial activities, public facilities, and maritime infrastructure, making it the key arrival and transition point. The architectural condition is split between utilitarian waterfront structures and inland commercial buildings, creating a hard-edged, monofunctional use and weak transition gradients between spaces. The site is driven by tourism-based activities where movement, waiting, and short-term interactions dominate the spatial experience. In contrast, Site C is community-oriented, supported by recreational, educational, and local commercial functions. The architecture reflects mixed typologies with vernacular and modern influences but lacks coherence, resulting in issues such as noise, vehicular dominance, and reduced environmental comfort. Site C supports stable, everyday local activities through institutions, recreation, and small-scale economies. Overall, Mersing presents a highly exposed yet permeable environment with strong solar and airflow potential. However, hard coastal edges, zoning segregation, and weak architectural responses result in heat accumulation and poor microclimate. This highlights the need for architecture to transform environmental exposure into controlled and performative systems.
So we're moving on to sensory. This slide shows the sensory mapping of the three sites, focusing on activity, movement, noise, and views. Site A is an active waterfront area with food stalls, recreational spaces, and strong pedestrian movement. There are high noise and smell zones, mainly around the food stalls and gathering areas. Movement is mostly along the coastline, with people stopping at gazebos and viewing points. The site has clear views to the sea, but activities overlap, causing congestion in some areas. Now, Site B is a working waterfront with boats, jetty activities, and fishing operations. The main sensory condition is noise from boats and activity near the jetty. Movement is more direct and functional, mainly for accessing boats. Views are focused on the river and boats, with limited spaces for public gathering. Now, lastly, Site C. It is an open public area with recreational spaces, pedestrian paths, and road access. Activities are more spread out, including walking and leisure. Noise is less concentrated, mostly from traffic and people. The site has wide views toward the sea and landmarks, but it is very exposed with little shade. So to conclude with that, each site has different sensory conditions based on its activity, movement, and spatial layout.
Moving on to behavior analysis, this overall mapping identifies three distinct behavioral zones in Mersing. Parcel A reflects kampong livelihood activity, Parcel B functions as a transit jetty and commercial node, while Parcel C acts as the main public leisure and coastal social space. Interviews from our site visit support our observations. Locals highlighted community identity, daily routine, and lack of facilities, while tourists highlighted on comfort, waiting spaces, and overall visitor transit experience. Firstly, Parcel A is characterized as a coastal village neighborhood driven by fisheries activity, food culture, and close neighborhood interaction. Observed patterns from Parcel A highlights Gate B with the most active zone with 72% dynamic movement, mainly from fishermen activities in the morning and food-related activities in the evening. Based on the analysis, several key issues are identified in Parcel A. Firstly, there is a lack of community space which limits social interaction among locals. Secondly, the local food identity is present but not fully developed as an attraction. Furthermore, the waterfront edge requires further activation to enhance spatial vibrancy, while potential for fishery-based experience of the village remains underutilized. Moving on, Parcel B is a functional waterfront transit zone shaped by ferry movement, small jetties, and direct interaction with the river edge activities. From our observation, Gate D, which is the jetty zone, is the most active zone with 74% dynamic movement from ferry boarding and tourist arrivals. The activity is highly dependent on transit and drops outside ferry operation hours. Based on the analysis, Parcel B is highly dependent on ferry schedules with activity dropping outside peak hours. Movement is concentrated near the jetty, causing congestion while other areas remain underused. There is also a lack of public spaces and waterfront programs, limiting longer stays and visitor experience. Lastly, Parcel C is a vibrant coastal public zone driven by leisure activities, civic presence, nearby schools, and a strong evening social vibrancy. From our gate observation, Gate H is the most prominent zone, located along the Mersing Beach with 68% movement, mainly from the evening social activities such as leisure, recreation, and family activities. Based on the analysis of observation, Parcel C lacks shaded seating and comfort for longer public use. Food stalls and gathering areas have strong potential but needs activation to support social economy node along the coastal edges. And lastly, connectivity between schools, civic building, and the waterfront could also be improved to cater for safer walkability and movement.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Eugene. I will focus on the climatic and environmental parameter for our project site in Mersing. Our primary objective is to synthesize complex environmental data ranging from the solar orientation to monsoon pattern into tangible architecture strategies that respond to the unique challenge of a tropical coastal context.
We now examine the solar dynamic affecting Mersing, where the sun remains at high altitude most of the day. At solar noon, the sun is nearly at the 90 degree. The sun path oscillates between the north and south throughout the year. This creates a constant solar radiation on every facade. We recommend a tapered front where upper floor provide passive self-shading. Both facades require deep horizontal louvers to block high altitude radiations. Light shelf will be used on north and south facades to harvest cool daylight. Next, we examine Mersing's hydrological profile. Rainfall peaks significantly in December while even dry months during February. The probability of rain increased at late November due to northeast monsoon. We must implement oversized drainage and bivalves to mitigate flooding issue. Consistent rainfall make rainwater harvesting is possible for irrigation and cooling system. We will prioritize pitched roof and deep eave to protect facade during driving rain and material degradation. Finally, integrated water feature will utilize this rainfall to lower ambient temperature via evaporative cooling. Mersing temperature profile is consistently tropical. Highest in May, average low temperature is 23 degrees. Heat is most intense in daytime. We must prioritize deck and cross ventilation to mitigate heat. To prevent nighttime heat radiation, we avoid use high thermal mass materials. Instead, we will use lightweight insulated envelopes. Night purge ventilation will be implemented to reset indoor temperature. Finally, water bodies and dense vegetation will create a microclimate evaporative cooling. The wind rows identify two primary wind directions, southwest and northeast. The stronger winds, up to 20 km/h, east coast have a clear seasonal shift between southwest and northeast monsoon. Building massing must be proposed along the monsoon axis to capture breeze. We will use wind tunnel and internal air wells to increase air velocity. The north-east facade will use louvers to allow ventilation while blocking monsoonal rain. Finally, southwest boundary landscaping will filter dust and cool incoming airs. Mersing humidity is exceptionally high, consistently hovering between 80% and 88% year-round. This saturation heat feel more hotter and creates significant condensation risk. We must prioritize high-volume air change rate to provide physiological cooling. Design will need permeable material to prevent mold growth. The psychometric analysis shows a climate cluster heavily concentrated in the hot and humid quadrant, well above the comfort zone for nearly 90% of the year. The air is too moist and warm for natural comfort. High absolute humidity confirms that evaporative cooling alone is not effective. We must use high velocity air movement to shift the perceived comfort zone. This provides physiological cooling even at higher ambient temperature. We will incorporate passive dehumidification like solar chimney to reduce the latent heat load. Mersing experienced dominant overcast condition year-round. Creative dropped to just 9% in November. Aligned monsoon tempo, this creates a bright sky effect for more diffuse radiation than direct sunlight. We will focus on top lighting and skylight to capture abundant diffuse light. Internal baffles and translucent louvers will be implemented to soften high contrast glare. Solar energy system must be specified for high performance in low light conditions. So next, I will pass to Simi to present the microanalysis part.
Thank you, Eugene. A very good morning to everyone, and my name is Simi. Now I will present the part of microclimate analysis that has been conducted on 3 sites in Mersing. Our study with the first 2 comfort level for different measurement is grounded in Malaysia Standard MS 1525-2019 for the average illuminance level and the global safety standards for the air quality.
We monitor air quality and mining for the fresh level below the 450 ppm as the concentration exceeding the 1000 ppm causes a leakage and the cognitive decline. Acoustically, we strive to maintain an acceptable threshold of 66 dB to mitigate the urban noise pollution. This regards the parameters established the baseline for our speculative and recursive intervention across all 3 sites. To ensure habitability, we evaluate the data against a NEN 1100 wind standards, polarizing the pedestrian comfort below the 5 meters per second. Acoustically, we target a 66 dB threshold as level exceeding the 85 dB require architectural buffering. By cross-referencing this limit with our measurements, we can precise the MAT and mitigate the specific zone of environmental stress. So transitioning to Site A, our coastal and river mouth edge, we conducted a study across the 4 district observation points, the point 1 at the landward transition, point 2 facing the open sea, and the point 3 and 4 along the Jalan Makau. The site is positioning near to the equator where the long axis of our proposed footprint are oriented north-south. This orientation leaves its east and west facade highly vulnerable to the solar heat gain. While dominant, the northeast and the southwest wind offer the excellent natural ventilation potential. The northeast monsoon carries a risk of a high-velocity south spray. Our shadow analysis for 4th April 2026 revealed a site at extreme solar variability. At 9 a.m., the northeast sun left the eastern facade in full morning sun. By 12 p.m., the site reached a zenith angle with 100% exposed to intense vertical radiation. But for 4 p.m., the low-rise residential context to the west failed to provide the shading, leaving the site exposed to harsh afternoon sun. The necessitated a strategy of recursive vertical fins on east-west facade and a green buffer to mitigate the glare and the noise. We now move to Site B, the riverfront jetty area. The site is defined by a northwest to the southeast longitudinal axis, making its southwestern edge highly susceptible to afternoon solar gain. Our study utilized 4 observation points, checking the interface between the inner river channel at point 1 and the landward development at point 2. While the river corridor provides a natural cooling path for southwest breeze, acoustic analysis the river's heavy noise concentration at point 3 and point 4 due to the bridge and the main road traffic. With no tall surrounding structures, the building overall will remain fully exposed to the high-angle solar radiation. The shadow analysis for Site B confirmed major exposure challenges. At 9 a.m., the wide road reserve of Jalan Abu Bakar prevents any natural overshadowing, causing the immediate thermal gain on the northeast facade. By 12 p.m., tight shadows create a dual radiation effect from the asphalt and the river glare. At 4 p.m., the southwest facade faces a full afternoon sun. Consequently, our design must prioritize the capturing cool southwest river breeze, while utilizing the dead horizontal overhang to mitigate the intense water reflection and the solar heat. Sesi is an irregular urban infill along the Jalan Tun Dr. Ismail. Study through the 4 points checking the road junction, eastern green pocket and the residential cluster. While surrounded by low to medium-rise buildings, they provide insufficient communal shading, leaving the site vulnerable to the east-west solar. Wind analysis revised a canyon effect at point 3 and the turbulent southwest wind that caused air stagnation within the urban grain. Acoustically, the site presents a sharp contrast. Point 3 suffers from the heavy road noise, while point 2 offers a potential acoustic sanctuary adjacent to the park edge. Next, our shadow analysis for Site C confirmed that the urban density provides a negligible shading. At 9 a.m., the site is already in full morning sun, with the eastern park edge initially early thermal gain. By 12 p.m., it reached 100% vertical exposure, which combined with the restricted air movement created a surf heat trapping. At 4 p.m., the low-rise western context offered no relief from the afternoon sun, resulting in the thermal shock effect as hard surface store the heat. To counter this, our strategy polarizing the recursive cooling void to induce a natural state effect and the flush out the stagnant air. This comparative data from the 4th of April 2026 highlight the extreme microclimates about the illuminance, temperature, and humidity of each site. Site A faces the highest thermal stress, peaking at 40.2 degrees Celsius with the humidity dropping to 46% due to the high coastal evaporation. Site B utilized the river as a heat sink, maintaining a lower non-mean of the 38.4 degrees Celsius, true with the highest humidity. Site C demonstrated the significant urban heat retention, staying warmer into the evening than the other side. Across the board, the intensity exceeds 80,000 lux, confirming that the severe solar ray is the critical challenge for the all 3 locations. Well, according to the carbon dioxide, wind speed, and the sound level data we collected, the site is a high-velocity environment with a wind reaching 5.1 meters per second. It is suffer from the extreme nighttime carbon dioxide spike is around 1025 ppm and the peak noise levels of 89 dB. Side B maintains the most stable air quality, benefiting from the level's briefing corridor, with the moderate wind and the noise level. In contrast, Side C functions as the urban air trap with the elevated morning, carbon dioxide and the turbulent wind pattern. This finding highlighted the critical need for the architectural invitation that address both air stagnation and the acoustic pressure across the different urban fabric. By conclusion, for site SWOT analysis, our primary strengths are high natural ventilation and unobstructed solar access. However, the weakness included an extreme thermal stress of 40.2 degrees Celsius. At the nighttime air stagnation, opportunity is using the recursive shading to mitigate the heat and the salt resilience buffers to filter the corrosion sea winds. Three involve the constant maritime decay and the tidal surge rate. For Site B, the Shriner are its cooling river corridor and the role as an active maritime transport hub. Witnesses are served solar glare reflected from the water and the acoustic congestion from the bridge reaching at 80 dB. Opportunities include the river raging, the inventory effect through the urban cut-through, and using step ventilation to clear the natural air siphon. The primary threats are tidal flood risk and the structural decay from the dam environment. Our synthesis, the threshold, focusing on balancing the intense urban activity with the irregular metabolic cooling strategy. Finally, for Site C, our strength lie in the established urban fabric and the proximity to a green pocket. Throughout the witnesses include several urban heat island effect and air stagnation. Opportunities focus on the urban unflattening through a recursive cooling void to induce a stack effect alongside the acoustic green skin to filter the noise from the main road. The primary threats are vehicular dominance and the risk of the overshadowing neighborhood. So the infill is the aim to transform this stagnation plot into the porous, the breathing urban lab. So thank you. I will pass to the next person.
For circulation and accessibility, Site A has strong edge access from the main road, but internal paths are fragmented. It is multi-modal with bus, road, and jetty. But these operate separately. The site has potential to become a connector between land and water movement. Site B has direct urban access with strong connectivity to main roads and the town centre. It is transport rich with bus stops, roads, and jetty nearby, but these systems are not well integrated. Its waterfront location gives high potential to connect land and water circulation into one node. Site C is accessible but more secondary. It connects to main road but it's not part of primary movement spine. Circulation are more localized with smaller roads and lower visibility. This makes it suitable as a quieter low intensity node. For weekday traffic condition, on weekday, traffic at 10 a.m. is smooth with moderate flow and no major congestion. At 3 p.m., traffic increases due to school and afternoon activity, causing short delays. By 8 p.m., traffic reduces and becomes more dispersed with minimal congestion. For weekend traffic condition, on weekends, traffic is more active at 10 a.m. There is higher movement near the jetty and town centre. At 3 p.m., peak tourist activity causes heavier congestion, especially around commercial areas. By 8 p.m., traffic remained active but more dispersed. For public transport, the ME001 looping route connects Site B and Site C directly, offering high frequency and continuous circulation. Site A is served by ME002, which has lower frequency and fixed schedule, making it less convenient. For water transport, Mersing Jetty acts as the main gateway connecting surrounding islands, operating daily with scheduled ferry services. The Rawa Island Private Jetty provides secondary flexible access based on resort operations, and the LKIM fishery system is separated from the passenger jetty, creating a functional split between fishing and tourism flows. This results in time-based congestion and a lack of integration with the overall waterfront experience, where water movement is linear and controlled with minimal infrastructure.
This slide shows the pedestrian movement in Mersing. Most of the activities is at the waterfront and town center. Side C is the strongest and side A is the weakest. As for cycling global heat map, people mainly use the main road. There are no proper bike lanes. Side C has the highest activity followed by side B. What is isochrone mapping? Isochrone can show how far people can travel within a certain time threshold. like 5, 10, or 15 minutes. It helps us understand accessibility and how easily people can reach the sites. This is useful for planning locations and deciding type of development. For Site A, accessibility is mainly by car. The 5-minute zone covers the nearby areas while 15 minutes covers a wider region. So, Site A is suitable for destination type of development. For Site B, it is very close to the town center. It has strong accessibility and high visibility, so it is suitable for public and active development. For Site C, it is near to the hospital and also recreational area. It has good accessibility and also existing facilities nearby, so it has balance advantage. For cycling, this mapping shows that all sites can reach the town within 10 minutes by cycling. This means cycling is possible, but better facilities are needed. For pedestrian walking, Site A has limited walking access. It is more dependent on vehicles. For Site B has the best walking accessibility. It connects well to the town center within 15 minutes. Site C is also highly walkable. It is good connection to many areas in the town. Last but not least, for overall circulation of all sites have the strong potential and good accessibility. However, there is high car dependency and limited pedestrian and cycling facilities. So, improvement in connectivity and walkability is important.
Hi, I'm Clara. I'll present our group's findings on the macro climate challenges in Mersing, focusing on climate change and the social economy here. Climate change acts as a central driver for Mersing's environmental shifts. As this diagram illustrates, increased rainfall, rising temperatures, and increased sea levels create a ripple effect that directly pressures Mersing's infrastructure and socio-economic stability. The temperature in peninsular Malaysia have risen by 0.24 degrees Celsius per decade. In Mersing, high humidity reduces the body's ability to cool itself, making outdoor communities like fishermen and market workers particularly vulnerable. Local traders like Encik Asmi have noted the extreme midday heat often halts business activities entirely. Mersing is highly vulnerable during the northeast monsoon season. For 2026, rainfall is projected to be 3 times the average, with December alone expecting up to 700 mm. This creates severe flash floods risk, where heavy upstream runoff meets coinciding king tides. Sea levels here are rising at 3 to 5 mm per year, affecting low-lying coastal areas in Johor. This accelerates coastal erosion, which already impacts 15% of Malaysia's shoreline. Sites like Air Papan are physically shrinking due to stronger wave action, threatening the local tourism identity. Marine biodiversity is also at risk. Seawater temperature rises just 1 to 2 degrees Celsius can trigger coral bleaching. This destroys vital fish habitats and reduces the attractiveness of Mersing's island dive sites, which are central to the local economy. Next, we will see how these environmental factors will create a fragile seasonal economy in Mersing. Using this calendar diagram, we note that the tourism in Mersing is only active from April to September. During the peak monsoon in December and January, marine access is closed, and the fishing and tourism sectors effectively shut down. Mersing relies heavily on its tertiary tourism sector and primary fishing activities. There's very little secondary manufacturing to provide a buffer during the off-season. Finally, the high occurrence of disasters such as flash floods in Mersing communities face significantly long-term risks, such as losing land due to rising sea levels, building infrastructure now associated with high vulnerability, and RCP 2050 urges for residents to relocate. This crisis is magnified by economic barriers, specifically a rigid dependency on the private sector, low purchasing power, and an aging workforce that lacks adaptability required to meet these looming environmental shifts.
Hi, I'm Faiz. This section highlights the key architectural and infrastructure challenges within the site. It focuses on design, flood issues, and environmental limitation. This slide highlights the architectural challenge on site. Firstly, the buildings are not climatic responsive, especially in handling heat, humidity, and flooding. Poor ventilation causes heat to be trapped, leading to the uncomfortable indoor condition. Secondly, the material selection is not suitable for long-term coastal environment, where high humidity can cause quick degradation. Lastly, there is a lack of the green integration. Vegetation can be better utilized as a natural buffer to reduce heat and improve the comfort. In terms of flood resilience, most buildings near the water are not adapted to rising water levels. The current building typologies are static and lack flexibility to respond to changing coastal conditions. This creates a gap where the design does not fully respond to flooding risks. Moving to the infrastructure, the site relies mainly on the conventional system. There is limited integration of the passive design, renewable energy, and smart technologies. The drainage systems are also problematic, especially during the monsoon, where blockage increase the flood risk. In addition, the lack of the climatic responsive water system wasn't the impact during the extreme weather. Another key issue on site in efficient coastal waste management. There is a limited waste collection infrastructure, which lead to the accumulation of the marine debris, especially waste carried in by ocean current. This not affect the visual quality of the area, but also harm the coastal environment. In addition, there is a lack of proper waste segregation and recycling system, causing most waste to be unmanaged and untreated. Overall, the weak integration between the waste management and environmental system reduce the sustainability and the long-term resilience of the site.
My name is Muhammad Nazmi and I will be presenting the strategies. In response to the global climate challenges, the proposed strategies are derived from Sustainable Development Goals by United Nations. These goals were designed to address a collective of global challenges which include climate change, environmental degradation, poverty, inequality, and economic development. Among the identified global challenges, climate change and environmental degradation are the most relevant to environmental design. The SDGs translate global challenges into measurable targets and indicators, allowing sustainability to move from abstract goals into actionable and evaluable strategies. Four SDGs are selected based on architectural relevance. The first one is SDG 7 for clean energy, SDG 9 for infrastructure, SDG 13 for climate action, and SDG 14 for marine ecosystems. Two of it aligns with our studio approach. So for SDG 7, clean energy aligns with Recursive studio approach, daylighting as a tool to be utilized within sustainable team. Meanwhile, for SDG 13, climate action aligns with speculative studio approach with various climatic issues as the core to sustainable team. The other two goals are suggested as the secondary approach. Moving on to the case study. So the first case study is for SDG 7 for affordable and clean energy. We selected Barrington Zero Energy Development BZ by Z Factory, which reduces energy demand through passive design such as solar panels, solar heating, and insulation for the residents. Next is for SDG 9. We selected BIQ House by Arup, which generates energy through algae facade by harvesting the solar energy, which highlights the innovation in infrastructure. Next is for SDG 13 for climate action. We selected Bosco Vertical by Boris Studio that improves microclimate through vegetation facade for the residents also. Lastly is for SDG 14 for marine ecosystem. We selected Reef Check Malaysia, which integrates ecological conservation with community engagement. Lastly, for the overall analysis, Mersing has a strong environmental potential through solar exposure, airflow, and marine systems. But these remain uncalibrated, resulting in heat, flooding, and ecological degradation. This highlights a gap between environmental potential and architectural response, positioning climate as a design driver rather than a constraint. Thank you.